Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua yang hadir di sini hari ini. Ibu-ibu dan bapak sekalian, terima kasih atas kehadiran ibu-ibu dan bapak dalam acara hari ini. Sesi 1 ini akan diisi oleh international speakers. Akan diisi oleh international speakers yang menguasai bidangnya masing-masing. Dan berasal dari organisasi akuntan internasional. Yang pertama akan saya perkenalkan Mr. Sharath Martin. Beliau adalah Global Vice President dari Association of Chartered Certified Accountant. Kemudian yang kedua Mr. Venkat Ramanan. Beliau adalah Regional Vice President for Asia Pacific dari CIMA. Dan yang ketiga, Mr. Brian Chung, beliau adalah Director of Investments Mountain Partners Malaysia. Kenapa kita juga mengundang Mr. Brian Chung? Karena tema kita hari ini terkait dengan business disruptions. Tentunya ini menyangkut nasib kita sebagai para akuntan, baik hari ini maupun di masa depan. Tapi juga kita ingin mendengarkan pendapat Mr. Brian Chung, karena sebagai Director of Investments, beliau juga punya pandangan-pandangan mengenai business disruptions apa saja yang mungkin akan terjadi, yang mungkin akan sangat berpengaruh terhadap profesi akuntan kita. Yang saya maksud dengan akuntan kita di sini adalah baik akuntan publik, akuntan manajemen, akuntan pendidik, maupun akuntan-akuntan lain yang maksudnya yang bekerja di sektor-sektor yang lain. Tanpa memperpanjang pembukaan, mungkin perlu saya sampaikan bahwa hari ini Presiden Joko Widodo akan membuka Kongres IAI, tetapi karena jadwal beliau yang sangat ketat, pembukaan dilakukan di Istana Negara. Pada saat ini kami diberitahu bahwa pembukaan bisa jam 11, bisa juga jam 11.30, tergantung nanti Presiden kapan bisanya gitu ya. Tetapi itu berakibat pada sesi kita. Kalau misalnya Kongres dibuka oleh Presiden lebih awal, mungkin nanti sesi ini saya stop sementara untuk dilanjutkan setelah sesi pembukaan Kongres oleh Presiden terlaksana. Jadi sebelumnya mohon maaf kalau nanti ada katakanlah disruptions, ya. Ini temanya jadi persis sekali. Kita bicara soal business disruption. Sesi ini juga akan ada kemungkinan terdisrupsi oleh acara pembukaan Kongres oleh Presiden Joko Widodo. Saya juga mungkin tidak akan membacakan CV beliau sekarang karena keterbatasan waktu juga, tetapi ingin mempersilakan beliau para pembicara untuk mempresentasikan makalah-makalahnya dengan waktu masing-masing 15 menit. Without further ado, I would like to ask you all to present for about 15 minutes. Then we will follow it by Q&A answers. As I already mentioned to the audience that our schedule might be disrupted but let's pray that our session ends well, and the opening ceremony will commence after our session ends. Thank you. I would like to ask Mr. Charles Martin to be the first speakers. Thank you.
Selamat pagi, ibu-ibu dan bapa-bapa sekalian. My name is Sharath Martin, and I am with ACCA's Professional Insights team, with a focus on ASEAN and ANZ. So I'm not yet the Global Vice President. It's an honor for me to be here with you today for EIE's Congress and 61st anniversary celebrations. Thank you to EIE, and in particular to past and current council members of EIE for this invitation to speak at your Congress. Following the insightful presentation on the revolutionary changes affecting the global environment from Dr. In Ki Joo of IFAC, I would like to briefly speak to you today about how these changes are disrupting ways of working and future business models. To do this, I am drawing on the findings of a recent ACCA report called Business Models of the Future. This research, which we released earlier this year, explores what lies behind business model innovation. It discusses a number of key trends that are shaping the global economy, the ways in which these demand new approaches from organizations as they rethink their business models. It also looks at the importance of understanding the impact of systems when assessing how value is created. And relevant to the theme of this year's Congress, it urges professional accountants to adopt and develop mindsets related to thinking systematically and creatively for the long term, to assist them as they build new sources of value now and into the future. So let me start with a short overview of some of these key trends shaping the global economy. Broadly speaking, the world is getting better. Incomes and standards of living have risen around the globe, leading to the development of new markets for new types of products and services. The Human Development Index, which you see here, was created by the UNDP to emphasize that people and their capabilities should be the ultimate criteria for assessing the development of a country, not just economic growth alone. This includes three measures: whether people live a long and healthy life, being knowledgeable, and a decent standard of living. And as you can see at a global level, more people than ever before have been able to gain skills and use these skills to access opportunities in modernizing economies. But although quality of life can be said to have increased for large parts of the world, many are still denied the opportunity to live well. There are still entrenched inequalities within all countries, both rich and poor, advanced and emerging, that stop people from living fulfilled lives. Some are still able to prosper more than others. Around the world, income growth of the top 1% or even the top 0.1% have outpaced the income growth of the rest of a country's population. And so while incomes have risen around the world, a larger share of gains have been concentrated within a small fraction of people at the top of the income ladder. And in the North America bubble on the extreme right, the percentage is missing, but it's 630%. And what that means is that the income growth of the top 0.1% is 64 times higher than the bottom 50%. And that speaks a lot to what's happening in societies around the world. And as this is happening, the world is changing shape. The way people live and work is changing. Take urbanization, and that's an issue which is also relevant in these parts of the world. As more and more people move to cities and mega cities, the shape of economies change, and they shift to services that are more and more digital. And this urban migration also causes a contest for resources, for access to public services, for even scarcer jobs. These are new challenges for which societies, governments, and importantly businesses are unprepared for. If we look at some of the big issues across the economic landscape right now, we can see many new challenges coming into the view for the private sector. Understanding these shifts and factoring them into business decision-making is critical. A few of them are already very well known to us. Technology is changing the daily lives of business and the profession in profound ways. Demographics, rebalancing future prospects from the demands of millennials to an older generation that is living and working longer. In fact, in many parts of ASEAN today, you have both a young population and a rising, aging population together simultaneously. There is also new value creation, the rise of intangibles and of value that does not appear on balance sheets. The nature of work is changing, with employment becoming more flexible and platform-based. As I spoke about earlier, cities are growing rapidly and are reshaping social economic landscapes. And we are seeing faster and faster disruptions as business models evolve with ever greater speed. It wasn't too long ago that companies like AirAsia and Uber were disruptors, and today they are already being disrupted. These are just some of today's factors, but how about tomorrow and the decades to come? In our report, we saw 3 overarching themes. Let me speak to each of them briefly. Firstly, technology, which is already here today, from hyper-efficient, platform-based preference matching to productivity-enhancing AI. Data is seen as a new source of potential value in the global economy. Data creation is set to reach 163 zettabytes by 2025. Now, if anyone is wondering how many zeros there are in a zettabyte, it is 10 to the power of 23, or roughly 1 trillion gigabytes. In some cases, technology have created a space for the emergence of business models that enhance quality of life. And we can think of examples in crime prevention, in healthcare, in detection and diagnosis of treatments and diseases earlier on. But alongside this potential are a range of social and ethical questions related to data ownership, to data quality, to data privacy. And of course, in today's world, we also speak of algorithmic biases. Second, institutional deficiencies and inequality, which is an important point. Because in light of today's multiple simultaneous challenges, many institutions are struggling to align their activities to create meaningful value for their stakeholders. This is an institutional inflection point. Frameworks that were created to address the challenges of the 20th century are struggling to be repurposed for the 21st century. What do I mean by this? Think of our financial systems. Think of even our taxation systems. These are systems which need to evolve to newer business models. Even the way financial transactions are being recorded and indeed even reported. At a global level, international governance institutions face even more daunting prospects as they attempt to deal with cross-border issues ranging from climate change to migration, economic stability, and international trade. And finally, there is the ongoing degradation of the natural environment. This affects the daily lives of millions of people in a number of ways, from clean water, air quality in cities, rising sea levels, and the ability to produce food. And while carbon-based resource inputs such as oil are being replaced by renewables such as solar, the scale of change is clearly not fast enough. So what does this mean for businesses and business models? In the past, we had a pretty much a linear approach. You took a bunch of inputs, you put them through a process, and out came outputs of value. Today, to deliver a value proposition that is able to flourish, we need an understanding that complex systems come together to create outputs and outcomes. It's about seeing relationships rather than things, and patterns rather than static snapshots. A changing world is calling out for new business models that can navigate complexity, maintain resilience, and make the most of opportunities. Value creation through business models connects the thinking about systems in many ways. Now, what is interesting for us is that the International Integrated Reporting Council, or IIRC, already points a way forward for the profession in this space. On this slide, you can now see the IIRC's 10 themes for thinking about value creation. These provide a useful guide for starting to think more systemically and also to contextualize this thinking to the role of professional accountants. With that, let me conclude my presentation by speaking of 4 key attributes that finance professionals should consider and adopt to succeed in this changing business environment. Firstly, the ability to think like a system. The role played by individuals in these evolving business ecosystems is really important. As organizations employ the various characteristics of new business models, employees who understand how to operate in a network and how to create value as part of a system will be crucial, and that includes the finance function. Second, understanding how to capture and assess new sources of value. The growing awareness of new types of value is a core competency where skills and approaches are constantly evolving. The ability to measure, report, monitor, and evaluate these new types of value will be a core function of the future finance professional. Third, building creative capabilities to think differently and problem solve. To assess new problems, we need to think differently. Techniques like design thinking and human-centered design have radically redrawn the boundaries for solving real-world problems. At present, new technologies like algorithms and AI are growing in use. In order for them to be truly trusted, ethically deployed and designed, their potential and implications need to be better understood by all stakeholders. And finally, adopting a long-term mindset. Taking a wider view and a longer-term approach is challenging, given the near-term issues that compound uncertainty. But the core to navigating uncertainty is to maintain adaptability. And I think that is going to be a key word for accountants in the decades to come. Adaptability will build resilience and your ability to absorb shocks. Long-term thinking can also unlock hidden value by opening up previously unseen opportunities beyond traditional boundaries. So with that, I conclude my presentation today, and I hope this has given you some insight on the impact that disruption is having on businesses, both now and in the future, and the ways in which we as financial professionals can adapt and succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharath Martin. Ibu-ibu dan bapak sekalian, tidak ada seorang pun, tidak ada satu negara pun yang dapat mencegah perkembangan teknologi, terutama IT. Ya. Tidak ada yang bisa mencegah perkembangan artificial intelligence, tidak ada yang bisa mencegah perkembangan otomasi dan sebagainya. Tadi saya kira mungkin kalau saya boleh menggarisbawahi pesan Mr. Sharath Martin itu pada slide terakhir tadi, bahwa para akuntan harus menyiapkan diri masing-masing, memiliki mindset baru, memandang segala sesuatu sebagai suatu sistem, kemudian menemukan kira-kira di mana value creation yang bisa kita peroleh atau kita sumbangkan, dan dari situ kita memposisikan diri kita, meningkatkan kapabilitas para akuntan untuk berperan dalam sistem keseluruhan value creation tadi. Pada akhirnya yang harus dilakukan oleh para akuntan memiliki mindset jangka panjang. Artinya perubahan tidak akan bisa dicegah oleh siapapun, tidak oleh Presiden Donald Trump, tidak oleh Presiden Xi Jinping yang keduanya terus perang terus-menerus. Ya. Tidak ada yang dapat merubahnya, tidak ada yang dapat mencegahnya. Perubahan akan selalu terjadi. Mungkin pesan dari Mr. Sharath Martin tadi, kita harus memiliki mindset baru menghadapi perubahan apapun yang akan kita temui. Dan katakanlah mengenali di mana kita bisa memiliki posisi di dalam sistem yang akan terbentuk kemudian, apa yang bisa disumbangkan oleh kita semua, dan tentunya apa yang harus kita persiapkan, mempersiapkan diri sendiri, building our own unique capabilities to ensure the challenge of the future. Pembicara kedua kita adalah Mr. Venkat Ramanan. I would like to ask.
Selamat pagi. Terima kasih Pak Ito Warsito, and thank you for IAI for having us in this session. Today I offer the research that CIMA has concluded on the future of finance, and my objective is three ways: to provoke your thoughts, to provide you some insights, and to give us as accountants a great deal of hope in where we need to go. If I use this 5 years later, it'll be still relevant. There are certain professions that are going through tremendous change right now, and that is caused by technology and those around. Take, for example, the medical profession. You get up in the morning, and if you feel some symptoms, what do? You don't call the doctor, you Google. Google will most probably tell you, with options, what's wrong with you and what do you need to do about it. Take the legal profession at the moment. Artificial intelligence is looking at case laws and providing options for lawyers as to what they should present, cutting down days of research taken by junior lawyers. Talking about professions, take, for example, 3 million truck drivers in the US. They only know one thing: to drive trucks. And now we have autonomous, self-driven trucks that started in 2015 that are on the roads. Think about it. Autonomous, self-driven trucks, 3 million people who are used to driving trucks. What's going to happen to them with change? Provocation number 2. You have daughters, sons, you may be grandparents, you might have nieces and nephews. They're going through schooling system at the moment, and they will exist, and they will exit out of the schooling system and find out new jobs that don't exist now. Think about your students who are going through university degree programs in accounting, and when they come off, what type of jobs will exist in the future? Provocation number 3. According to McKinsey, by 2030, 375 million people will either need to upskill or learn new skills in order for them to remain relevant. Indonesia's population is 250 million. You take half of that to be the working population, 120 million. You multiply that by 3 times, and it's 11 years away, by the way. 335 million. What did our research do? We spoke to about 5,500 to 7,000 professionals. We did the research in 2,000 organizations and in 150 countries. Some of the countries are global, some of the companies are regional, and we got their key insights as to the changing profession of accounting and specifically the competencies that will change. And their insight was very straightforward. They said disruption and change is happening at such a fast pace, and it's causing 2 fears in human beings. The first fear is fear of being left out, or the fear of being left behind. And the fear is real. In order to respond to that, we asked what are the things that are causing changes? What are the things that are driving changes? They identified a few things. Globalization, well, we all know globalization. We talk about it in our classes, in our boardrooms, in our meetings. Geopolitics, this is something that's changed tremendously, but because now geopolitics takes place over Twitter. Presidents tweet the policy statements. President Trump announces in the morning over 128 characters what his trade sanctions on China would be. And what do you think the Chinese government has to do? Wake up in the morning, read Twitter, and then figure out how to respond to it. Customer empowerment is huge. Customers have choice. I mean, 10 years ago, you didn't have Gojek, you didn't have Grab. You go to Dubai, it will show you customer empowerment to the maximum level. When I landed in Dubai and I used Uber for the first time, the basic Uber was a Lexus car. I got a shock. I canceled it. I was scared how much the rate will be charged. Then I went further, you find something called Uber Luxury, which is a Ferrari or a Lamborghini that will come to pick you up. And then there's something called Uber Chopper. Consumers have far greater choice in things than we have ever had. And if you're working for an organization that's serving consumers, think about that. Demographics are changing. Urbanization is taking place. More people are moving to the cities. And of course, technology and the changing generations that we are. We speak about the generation Y, those who want work-life balance, but talk about the generation Z. These guys are hustlers. Hustlers means they'll work during the day, and in the night they'll have some online business. They work hard. And very soon you're going to have Generation Alpha coming into workplace. And by the way, one of us may be working for them in the future. They might be our bosses. So what technology changes are causing this impact in the finance profession? Of course, we have cognitive computing, in-memory computing, visualization, robotics, we have artificial intelligence, and of course, we have blockchain that's impacting us. Let me not go into the detail because we will have a conversation around that. Automation. Looks familiar? A car manufacturing plant in Detroit. This is how it looks now. Trading flow of a stock exchange. This is how it looks now. That's a robot making burgers. And in all these situations which I showed, there was no trade unions, there's no overtime pay, no medical leave, no bad moods or good moods, standard, good quality production systems. And by the way, if you're wondering what that thing on the bottom right, it's a Shelby Cobra made by a 3D printed car, or 3D printed technology, a car was being built. So we do find impacts in technology and changes, and this is what worries us. Laggards are the last people who will get into any form of technology. They might not. They will resist and they will say no. Innovators will get into the first form of technology no matter what. They will bravely jump in. Early adopters will try and look at technology and systems in terms of that impact. Now think about your organization where you work. Your board of directors who sit there, are they laggards, are they innovators or early adopters? If they're laggards, good luck for your business. If you're in teaching, and the teaching profession right now, look at how you are adopting to technology to communicate and influence and inspire a younger generation. Are you a laggard not using technology? By the way, they're learning more out of YouTube than you think at the moment. We also find the world that we exist doesn't exist in the normal traditional world. When we walked in the morning, we were informed the opening inauguration by the President of Indonesia is taking place in the presidential palace. Now, can the EIE organizing committees tell the president, no, you have to come here. This is where the inauguration must be. We don't live in a very certain world now anymore. We live in a chaotic world as much as possible. Businesses are in a chaotic environment. You ask any CEO, any board, when they get up in the morning, they face so much of uncertainty, they have to figure out how to respond to it. But the biggest criticism of accountants and the finance profession, we like to be in the certain world. We like budgets, forecasting, planning. We like to rebudget, reforecast, replan. We like policies because it makes us feel comfortable there's a policy. But if you ask any chief executive or any organization or any business owner, they exist in a chaotic world. And how do we transform and respond to that world? We need to exist in a complex world. We need to be able to look at the situation and the changes, and how do we adapt and provide feedback to it. So part of the research, we got 4 insights. Preparing information, the requirement for accountants is reducing greatly because automation is taking care of that. Insights is where we look at analysis and provide insights based on the analysis. That is also done by analytical, advanced analytics, and BI tools. Humans don't need to do analysis anymore. Technology can provide that. Where a rise in finance profession needs to move is 2 specific areas. One is to influence, and the other one is to, through the influence, provide impact. What do we mean by influence? Influence is to communicate, engage, lead, collaborate with business, work in partnership, not hide behind Excel files or ledgers and say we don't work in the business area. Through that, we can ensure we can make an impact to the business and remain it sustainable in years to come. We also see the value of intangibles growing. This is S&P 500. In 1975, the value of intangible assets was only 17%. Now, in 2015, the market capitalization of all tangibles amount to 16%, where there's a rise in intangibles. We as accountants need to look at how we create value, how do we preserve value, how do we grow value. So is automation a risk or an opportunity? Look at what McKinsey said. Any predictable workforce, 8 out of 10 will lose their jobs. And if you're management accountants, 2 out of 10 will lose our jobs in the current way we have because technology will take and overlap those functions. But knowing how to apply expertise and managing people will be safe from technology and those around those things. Technology does not replace people. Technology replaces tasks and activities. And if we as human beings continue to do the same tasks and activities, we'll be replaced by technology. If we move up, develop new skills, learn new skills, adapt to new skills, we'll be able to coexist with the technology, and that's important. Finally, the finance function. What traditionally used to be a triangle has now changed fundamentally. At the bottom is the information part, and more it will shrink in terms of its human requirements because automation takes over information processing or data processing. Analytics will take over insights provided. And accountants now need to move into a specific area called strategic business partnering. Strategic business partnering is understanding the business, understanding the people, understanding the numbers, and making an impact as a result of that. The accountants have something that most don't have as a profession. We are underpinned by ethics and integrity and good governance. So when we provide insights for decision making as strategic business partners, we have that core built in us. And that's the requirement for us to move greater into if we are to provide sustainable impact to organizations. So my conclusions. You need to think about your organizations where you work, whether it's a university, it's the public sector, the private sector. Look at what the organization's doing. Are they adapting to technology? Are they not? You need to look at yourself to remain relevant and dynamic in the future. In order to do that, it is not only about what we know. I qualified as a management accountant 14 years ago. I'm irrelevant now, the skills that I learned 14 years ago. I have to consistently unlearn and relearn and unlearn and relearn. That's the norm of the day. And importantly, we as finance need to coexist with business. We cannot be at war with business. Most of the business units don't get along with the finance function because we don't understand them, they don't understand us. It is for us to have an agile mindset, is to coexist and understand the business, is to co-create our future and to co-determine to execute that. My last words. Martin Luther King, the famous civil rights activist, he walked up and said, "I have a dream." He didn't say, "I have a plan." We accountants need to start dreaming and creating the future for the organization, and to that, we have a responsibility to keep our skill sets and competencies to become strategic business partners, not now, but also for the future. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mr. Venkat Ramanan. Ibu-ibu dan bapak sekalian, sangat menarik tadi apa yang disampaikan oleh Mr. Venkat Ramanan, terutama yang salah satu slide-nya yang mengatakan bahwa pada tahun 2030 kira-kira 375 juta orang harus belajar skills yang baru supaya bisa tetap bekerja. Pak Menteri Kominfo baru diantara. Ya. Banyak orang yang takut mengenai perubahan, terutama karena perkembangan IT, teknologi IT dan sebagainya. Tapi beliau bilang bahwa yang takut itu adalah orang-orang yang selalu googling ya, mengenai pekerjaan apa saja yang akan hilang, katakanlah pada tahun 2030, sehingga takut. Padahal seperti tadi, sebetulnya mereka hanya perlu mempelajari skills yang baru, supaya tetap bisa berperan. Nah, ini barangkali pesan yang sebetulnya disampaikan Mr. Venkat Ramanan. Tadi soal bahwa kita selalu learn, unlearn, relearn, tapi at the end of the day, kita harus mengubah diri kita. Kalau dulu coexist, kemudian jadi co-determine, pada saatnya at the end of the day harus co-create, menciptakan sesuatu. Yang menarik adalah sebenarnya slide yang terakhir tadi. Ya. Tapi sebelum sampai situ, saya tadi tertarik oleh gambar perubahan yang terjadi di bursa saham. Ya. Kalau akuntan tua seperti saya ini pernah menyaksikan lantai bursa yang penuh dengan orang berebut menulis pesanan, menulis order saham, ya, sikut-sikutan dengan sesama broker di lantai bursa. Itu sebelum tahun 95. Tahun 95 perubahan besar terjadi. Semua order dilakukan dengan komputer. Ada lantai bursa khusus untuk itu, masih ada lantai bursa, ya. Tetapi orang tidak perlu lagi sikut-sikutan berebut menulis di papan order. Mereka langsung input order beli maupun order jual melalui komputer. Dan komputer bursa atau sistem perdagangan bursa yang akan mempertemukan order jual dan order beli tersebut. Tahun 2010 perubahan terjadi lagi. Lantai bursa kosong karena para broker cukup duduk di kantornya masing-masing menginput order jual maupun order beli saham. Tidak perlu lagi datang ke gedung Bursa Efek Indonesia. Ya. Sekarang pun peran broker secara individu orang-orangnya mengecil. Kenapa? Karena dengan perkembangan sistem, investor itu bisa melakukan order jual dan order beli sendiri lewat komputer di kantor mereka. Tapi ordernya tentunya di-pass through ke sistemnya broker sebelum sampai di sistem Indonesia Stock Exchange, Bursa Efek Indonesia. Itu yang terjadi sekarang. Nah, apa yang terjadi? Kalau dulu ada lebih dari sebelum tahun 98, ya, ada kurang lebih 200 perusahaan pialang efek yang masing-masing mungkin minimum punya 2 pialang efek. Ya. Tiba-tiba karena krisis finansial Asia tahun 97-98, sekitar hampir 100 pialang efek gulung tikar, sisanya sekitar 108 itu masih memiliki rata-rata 3 orang broker. Artinya ada berapa? Ada 300-an broker individu, ya orang-orang, karyawan perusahaan pialang efek yang aktif di lantai bursa. Dengan perubahan yang seperti sekarang, di mana investor bisa melakukan order sendiri, broker-broker individu tadi, maksudnya karyawan-karyawan perusahaan pialang efek, kehilangan fungsinya. Itu gambaran yang terjadi sebetulnya. Kalau mereka berhenti di situ, ya, mungkin slide terakhir dari Mr. Venkat Ramanan tadi sangat relevan. Ada 3 tipe manusia, ya. Yang pertama adalah those who make things happen, yang tadi mampu melakukan co-creation. Tapi ada orang yang hanya watch things happen. Kalau bahasa sehari-hari kita, mereka itu pengamat murni, tidak terlibat dalam proses, tapi komentar-komentar saja gitu ya, lihat dari luar arena. Tapi jangan sampai kita menjadi jenis yang ketiga. Those who say what the FUCK just happened. Ya. Karena itu berarti kita lupa to learn, unlearn, and relearn, dan tidak akan bisa melakukan co-creation at the end of the day. Karena belum ada berita dari Istana Negara, mengenai jadwal pembukaan, saya berasumsi bahwa pembukaan mungkin tetap jam 11.30. Karena itu presentasi saya lanjutkan dengan presentasi Mr. Brian Chung, karena sebagai Director of Investment dari Mountains Partners Malaysia, beliau punya, he has insights about how investors look at all of the technology development and also what investors would like to ask accounting profession to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Selamat pagi ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak sekalian. First of all, I want to thank IAI for inviting me. I'm coming here on behalf of CPA Australia. Okay, and yes, I'm working with Mountain Partners Malaysia, which is a venture builder and venture capital that's based out of Switzerland. So the topic today is on the role of accountants in the era of business disruptions. Okay, and today I'm staying here in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I'm proud. You know why I'm proud? Because Indonesia is home to a number of what we call in the tech space, right, unicorns. Do you all know that? Okay, I can name at least 4 unicorns. I'm sure there are many more. I can name at least 4 unicorns in Indonesia. Gojek, Tokopedia, Traveloka, and Bukalapak. Okay, I'm sure all of you will have heard of this, and you all should be very proud. You all should be very proud as accountants. Maybe some of you are even doing accounting work for some of these unicorns, but they have done really well in the whole ASEAN region. In fact, in the whole ASEAN region, Indonesia probably is the home, to the most number of unicorns, minus China. Yeah, China, they have probably now 200 over unicorns. Okay, but minus China, you guys are the top. So it is a very opportune time, a suitable time for me to talk about the role of accountants, knowing what's happening in the tech space right now, in the startup space right now. Okay. Now, I want to show you a graph, okay, what we have been seeing happening, in the technology space. Okay, so we use these 4 companies. I put the logos. I don't need to explain to you what those companies are. Those logos are probably in your mobile handsets, right? So this is like a proxy for all the digital companies in US. So if you look at 2006, the percentage of tech companies as a percentage of total US companies, it's 400 billion. So as a percentage, it's only 2.5%. You look at 2015, as a percentage, it's 9%. And today, it's 15%. Now, if you look at the numbers, well, it's not really a huge number, right? It's just 15%. And the growth is about, what, probably 1-2%, each in 2 years, within 2 years. So that kind of growth, it's not exciting. But if I were to extrapolate, all right, after today, let's say in 2018, 15%, in 2028, that's in 10 years' time, it becomes 50%. And in 2038, it becomes 85%. Now, if I were to extrapolate based on the historical trends, all right? And you know that it's not going to happen, just based on historical trends. More and more companies are becoming bigger and bigger in a very short time, okay? There was a research done. Disney, you all know Disney, right? It took them 90 years for them to reach a $100 billion company, okay? But it took Google only about 10 years to reach a $100 billion company. So the time is getting shorter and shorter. As tech companies expand, as tech companies grow, the time taken for them, to increase in their valuation becomes shorter and shorter. And hence, that's why you have those companies, the Tokopedias of the world, the Travelokas of the world, they are now being invested by the likes of Alibaba, right? The likes of SoftBank, and their valuation right now is hundreds of billions, all right? Because the investor believe in the potential of such startups. Okay, so as accountants, there's no way we could dismiss it and say that, nah, this company is not for me. It's too techy for me, I belong to the old school. I would like to audit or like to do accounting for the traditional sectors. Now, let me tell you, a lot of these traditional sectors all will be replaced by the tech companies. Now, we can see the wave of disruptions in the last 10 years, and it's across all sectors. You have entertainment in the form of Netflix. Of course, there are other players, but these are all the major prominent players. And you have travel, Airbnb, you have Tesla in automotive, Ant Financial in financial services. Now, Ant Financial didn't start off as a bank, all right? It started off as an e-commerce platform, and then evolved, and today it's even bigger than many, many banks, in ASEAN. Of course, you have Uber. Indonesia will be Gojek. Fundraising, you have Kickstarter, where it's a crowdfunding platform. So it's a P2P, where someone is interested in investing, they will put their money via the platform. And you have Spotify in music, and in accounting. Who has heard of this company? Oh, okay. Only one hand? All right, Xero is the next, it's already a unicorn. It's listed in the Australian Stock Exchange. I think the last check was they were valued at $6 billion US dollars. So it's already it's not considered a startup. Yeah, it's really listed in the Australian Stock Exchange. Now Xero is now being used widely. I'm not sure in Indonesia, but in Malaysia it's now being used widely because it uses cloud computing and it's a SaaS, a subscription as a service. Okay, and it has the ability to integrate with a lot of applications. Okay, to make the work of accountant much simpler. So these are the companies that we are seeing, and I'm sure in your home country here, you are seeing this wave of disruptions as well. Now, with this, you have external forces, that is impacting the role of a CFO. All right, so there are 4 quadrants here. Of course, the top two quadrants are the more relevant ones. All right, so the first one is digital. So we need to go, CFOs today need to go digital. They can no longer sweep it aside and say that, let my staff do it. Okay, let the young ones do it. You need to understand the digital wave, that's coming through the accounting profession today. Okay, and you need to understand as well because a lot of companies, as I said just now, there's a lot of startups now that's emerging. And you need to understand the business model because the business model is no longer like the old business model. The business model nowadays are a lot more complicated and a lot more prone, to changes. And data, you have in your hand a lot of data. As accountants, you have a lot of data. So how do you make sense of it? What do you do with the data? Okay, so in the accountant role, many, many years ago, it's just about bookkeeping. It's not about studying the data, but it's just about bookkeeping, making sure that the book balances. But today it's different. It's about how much information and how much data you have and how you can monetize money, how you can monetize from the data that you have. So the future accountant, my 2 panel speakers have actually spoken quite at length on this. It's evolving into data analysts, it's evolving into strategic partners. So there's an increasing importance to perform a wide range of tasks. So you're no longer just a bookkeeper, you're no longer just tasked, to balance the books. You are expected to analyze data. You're expected to make sense of data. You're expected to present the data. So that's the evolving role of an accountant. One of the panelists said as well, you need to learn, unlearn, and relearn, all right? Because there's so much new knowledge, that's being produced every day. Increasing demand for out-of-the-box thinking and problem-solving skills, right? Because things change so fast, right? Business models change so fast, we need to adapt as accountants and to work hand in hand with the CEO to come up with innovative solutions. And contribute to value creation and preservation, which I will not explain, as it was explained just now. Now, AI, this is something that is coming up next, and this is always a fear in accountants, because the question is always, will I be replaced? Will I lose my job as an accountant? So AI is, for now, we use machine learning to code accounting entries. So in a way, yes, you need to learn your standards, you need to know your standards, but eventually, the machine could apply those standards, much faster than any of us, all right? and they can apply it more accurately. Second, improving fraud detection. And this is something that, I guess it's very applicable to all in terms of governance, in all countries, that we need to have a system to ensure that fraud is being prevented. Because right now, using humans or using the manual way to detect fraud, it is very difficult and very cumbersome. Third, forecast revenue, which is your role as well as an accountant. You need to forecast what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 5 years' time, all right? And with machine, they could do it based on algorithm, based on historical trends. And fourthly, improving access and analyzing unstructured data. Okay, and as accountants, we receive not just numbers, but we receive contracts that we need to review, that we need to read through. Now, with AI, they could actually spot a lot of the missing clauses or missing terms in contracts, okay, where the human eyes may miss out. Now, if you know that this is coming, AI is coming, AI will be able to do this faster than any one of us, what should you do? Okay, and I think the message that we have conveyed to accountants is you need to upskill. You need to increase your skill, all right? Not just be contented with what you have learned 10, 20 years ago at school or at university. It's time now for us to upskill, to increase, to enhance our skill sets. Now, I want to share with you, this is a experience because after I left my corporate experience, corporate finance, corporate banking workforce, before that I joined a crowdfunding platform, and after that I had opportunity to join an e-wallet. Okay, I joined an e-wallet company. So you know what is an e-wallet? Basically, you pay using your phone. All right. I think Gojek would definitely have it. Yeah. So using e-wallet. So what were my roles? Because back then I was there as a finance person. So my roles were studying the data generated. Okay. So there were a lot of data because of the transactions, right? There were a lot of people using the phone to make transactions. So my role was to study the data and to study the patterns. What works and what don't. Second, innovating business models together with the CEO. Because I had an understanding of the figures, I had an understanding of the data, we needed to innovate the business model, to make it more attractive, to make it more exciting. Thirdly, monitoring and upgrading. We needed to also monitor because there were a lot of compliance issues because we were reporting to our central bank, and we needed to monitor and we needed to upgrade our security systems as well. And fourthly, fundraising, because we were a startup and we needed to go into the market to speak to investors, all right? And I was doing a lot of the presentations, to investors to tell them, how good a company is, what's the potential, what kind of data that we have generated, etc., etc. So those were my roles, all right? And you will notice that none of those roles were bookkeeping. None of those roles were bookkeeping. None of those roles were really accounting. Yes, occasionally, I have the team asking me, a little bit about accounting entries and all, but my primary role was that 4. Okay, and this is a real-life experience. I'm not speaking from a textbook. This is a real-life experience, and this is the role right now, of a CFO or a finance director or an accountant. Okay, I'm told that I only have 1 minute. Okay, the president is coming, right? Okay. All right. I come from Malaysia, so it's just to give you a snapshot of what are the challenges and opportunities, because what we find in Malaysia today is Malaysians realize that, technology is coming, right? Technology is coming fast and it's hitting the accounting profession. But the ability to adapt, the ability to adjust has been very slow, okay? The pace of adaptation has been slow. And a lot of it has to do with mindset, okay? Some of the accountants refuse, to change because they think that they could still ride through this period, all right? And this to just give you some stats, of what's happening in the Malaysian scene. We have increasing numbers of cloud computing, digital payments, big data, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. And this was produced by MIA, Malaysian Institute of Accountants. We produce what we call a digital technology blueprint, okay, to help accountants, to help auditors to plan how to address the changes that are taking place, in the face of technology. So you could read through. I know I don't have much time. Yes, waktu habis. I saw that. Okay, CPA Australia has also come up with a digital transformation committee because we want to keep abreast of digital developments. So these are some of our objectives, that we want to achieve, as CPA Australia. Okay, and I just want to end. So this is many, many years ago. I'm sure you all recognize the logo, so you can guess my age. So that was back then. I was in Price Waterhouse without the C. Okay, so that was a long time ago, right? And I was really a number cruncher, sitting behind the desk, just casting, taking stationery, that kind of job. So that was the job as an auditor. But now today, I see the new age accountant, rebel with a cause. Yes, it's no longer by accounting standards, but really, whether you're a data scientist, are you a psychologist as well? Because you're really analyzing what people think. Okay, as an accountant, how would he respond? If I implement a certain marketing strategy, how would the crowd respond? Fundraiser, I go around market, raising funds. Marketeer, okay, digital, I would say digital marketeer. Okay, strategists are working alongside the CEO, and you have to be tech savvy. You need to know what's going on in the tech world, all right, in order to be able to follow the changes. I think I've exceeded the time, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Chung. Ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak, mungkin perlu saya sampaikan, ini kita memiliki keterbatasan waktu, tapi mungkin masih ada beberapa pertanyaan yang apabila ibu dan bapak berminat untuk menanyakan, bisa disampaikan. Saya diberitahu oleh panitia bahwa pertanyaan dikirimkan secara online ya. Tetapi sebentar, barangkali pesan yang disampaikan Mr. Brian Chung tadi sebetulnya inline dengan pesan dari Mr. Sarat Martin maupun Mr. Venkat Ramanan. Ya. Para akuntan kita semua, jangan takut kehilangan pekerjaan. Yang harus kita lakukan, pada dasarnya seperti pesan Mr. Brian Chung tadi, adapt and learn. Kita harus beradaptasi dengan perkembangan dan juga mempelajari hal-hal baru yang terus berkembang. Tadi Mr. Brian Chung menyampaikan setiap hari ada pengetahuan baru yang harus kita pelajari. Karena itu proses learn, unlearn, relearn itu menjadi proses yang harus selalu dilakukan oleh kita semua para akuntan. Yang kedua, pesan embrace changes. Kita tidak bisa mengubah atau menyetop perubahan yang terjadi. Yang bisa kita lakukan adalah kita menjadi bagian dari perubahan itu. Kalau kita tidak menjadi bagian dari perubahan, kita akan tergilas oleh perubahan. Nah, barangkali mungkin pertanyaan yang populer katanya, itu ada 4 di sini. I would like to ask you about the questions. The first question is, what's your view on the report from the World Economic Forum in 2018 that on the Future Jobs Reports 2018, that the accountant job will let's say, starting to diminish by 2022. And then how could the accountants today unlearn and relearn to cope with the technology? Would that also mean rewriting the accounting profession? The third question, I would like to ask the impact of blockchain to the accountants. And the last one is, what is the opportunity for the accountant related to the blockchain? I think I would like your brief answers from three of you.
Okay, I actually wanted to put that slide, you know, the first question, right, the economic forum, because the top, I think it was in the top 3, you know, or top 5, accountant was one of them, you know, that it has a higher risk of losing jobs. But I didn't want to put a slide because I don't want to start with a negative note like this, right? As I think all of us mentioned, you know, that it is real because I give you an example, yeah. Recently, I got someone who is a non-accountant to do some accounts work for startups. Okay, so this is a real startups. It's new, you know, they don't have many transactions. So I got her to do the accounting work. And this staff has 0 qualification in accounting. Okay, I just asked her, you go and study what's available in the market, you know, Xero, the likes of Xero, the likes of Expensify. Expensify is like an expense app where you just take a picture of your receipt and then that entries all will be booked in, you know, to Xero. And Xero is connected to, integrated to CIMB Bank. Okay, you all know CIMB, yeah? So you don't need to do reconciliation. Everything is done on the cloud. And she did that, okay? And a non-accountant building up the whole system, you know, for a startup firm. So this shows me, you know, that it is so real. It is so real that the accountant, if you don't upskill or reskill, then there is that risk that your mundane, your process, your manual-driven jobs will be replaced by machines who can do it much faster and much more accurate, you know, than humans. Okay, and this is the call. I'm not saying that you're going to lose your job immediately, like, you know, tomorrow, you know, you're going to lose it. It will take time, but we cannot just sit, right? We cannot just sit and do nothing about it. Okay, there's still time for us to adapt. There's still time for accountants, you know, to change, know what's going on in the market, and reskill.
Thanks, Brian. 6 years ago, in Malaysia, I took a taxi. Actually, I asked to get into the taxi, and I said, can you take me from location A to location B? The person said, pay this much, 15 ringgit. That is, the taxi, if it's on meter, it's 4 ringgit. It's 15 ringgit, he said. I said, no. I said, that's overpaying. He said, no, we only are driving taxis, you better do this. What's the essential requirement to drive a taxi? You need to know how to drive a car, no question, safety, but you need to know the map and the location of how to get from one point to another. Did taxi drivers offer good customer service? No, they didn't. They just take you from one place to another. What did Uber do? Do car drivers need to know the maps and locations of where to take one person to another place? No. The maps are there in Google Maps and Waze. So the prerequisites, a taxi driver, a job that was there, the job is still there now, but the skill sets have completely changed. If you get into an Uber, the first time I got into an Uber in Malaysia, the guy got out of the car and opened the door for me. I thought something was wrong. Why is he opening the door? Then I went and sat in and he says, there's water for you. I said, what water? Do I have to pay? He says, no, water free. And then he's asking me, is the air conditioning good? In Malaysia, taxi will be sweating by the time 2 minutes later because they don't put the air conditioning on. So the skill sets have changed dramatically for that profession where the first skill is you need to know how to go from location A to B. Now it's replaced by technology. The skill sets of Uber drivers and Grab drivers, they are working professionals who are doing this. They can speak to you. They can talk to you. So Brian and those around was absolutely right. The accounting profession as it is will be redundant. But doesn't mean accountants will be redundant. Accountants will be sought after. if our competencies change, we are able to go into that strategic business partnering, yes, we'll be more relevant. In UK, a strategic business partner commands a salary of £70,000 per annum. But do you know there are not enough people to get the job? So changing the competencies, accounting profession will be relevant. Remaining competencies, accounting profession will end up being irrelevant.
Thank you.
I would just add, I have nothing to disagree with my fellow panelists. I think it's not just accountants, right? Anything that is routine and repetitive can be done better by technology. And so I think it's really just upon us to understand that. And if we all go back into how we first started in this world of accountancy, and if I asked you to do something repetitive and routine today, will you do it? I don't think so. I think that's also the challenge, that we can't hire young people today to come in and do routine, repetitive things. That's what technology is for. So I would say embrace it, in fact, enjoy it, because this is something that we would not be wanting to do 20 years ago if it was available.
Thank you. Ibu-ibu dan Bapak, karena ketersediaan waktu, mungkin perlu saya sampaikan bahwa pembukaan acara kongres oleh Presiden Republik Indonesia akan dilakukan dengan live streaming di layar kita ini, sehingga kita bisa menyaksikan apa yang terjadi di Istana Negara. Tapi sebelum itu, saya ingin memohon aplaus dari ibu-ibu dan bapak sekalian untuk para pembicara kita. I would like to thank you all for contributing to our accounting profession in Indonesia, and in telling us about what to do to, let's say, as you all mentioned, actually embrace changes which cannot be avoided, which creates unprecedented future challenge. Untuk itu, saya kembalikan cara kepada MC.